everybody. Jason and I are just so excited to sit down and have a conversation. We really wanted to bring you in a little deeper into the David Chronicles film encounter that we are working on. I know from your perspective, we've only really been talking about this since almost a year. I guess it'll be like a year in the fall, when Jason, you and Tad went to do the location scouting last October. Like that was when we were really started to publicly talk about this project. But again, the little insight behind the scenes here. We've actually been talking about this project for a long time. Jason, you were thinking about this project for like 10, 15 years or
Long
so.
time.
Yeah, a long time. And then you and I started talking about it like just before we filmed Breathe.
Right.
Um, and that was 2016. And then we really started talking about it after Breathe was completed. So we've been talking about and planning, like not just casual conversation, but actually planning this David Chronicles film encounter for like 6 years.
Yeah,
But
and, we would have even our plan was to shoot when, around the time of the pandemic, and then we had actually had funding to
yeah,
do the location scout, and
yep.
we were all set up to go, and then the world fell apart, and so that
Mhm.
got put on hold. But the beauty of that is that we then went on to shoot our first, cycle of our microfilms, Psalms
Mhm.
micro and so, had the pandemic happened, I know there's lots of terrible things about the pandemic, but the beauty for our company and for our work was that, we were able to shoot something that we would have never thought of,
It's
prior to
true.
that. So
Yeah.
and I really love that, our overall, project called House of David is actually Psalms microfilm sits under that, and this new film, David Chronicles, sits under that. And so I really actually think the way that we shot Psalms microfilms, it is going to definitely inform how we're shooting the David Chronicles. So
Yeah.
it's amazing how God weaves these things together in a way that we could have never in a million years figured out or predicted. So
I,
it's
I love
exciting.
I feel like that is like such an understatement.
Such an understatement. It's such an understatement. Yes.
Like, if we had done all the things the way we had thought we would do them and the timing that we had thought we would do them, like, it would be a whole different project, really,
It would be a
it's kinda like having a baby, right? Like, you think, "Oh, I should have waited a year or had my kid earlier," and then you're like, "But then I wouldn't have the kid that I have." It would be
Oh,
a
yeah.
whole
People
different
used to say
scenario.
that to us, and I know that's the popular thing to make sure that your career is secure and your whatever else, and had had my wife and I waited for us to have kids till we had money, as an
Oh
artist,
gosh.
we
Oh
would be
gosh.
we would not have children at all,
That's right. That's right.
so I think the moral of the story is if you feel inclined to different things or if the Lord is leading you different things, just jump off the cliff. In fact, that's
Mhm.
probably
Amen.
kind of one of our, Presence Creative Arts mottos is if you hear that you're supposed to do something, just do it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is so true. There has been so many times, and this project, again, we're kind of peeling things back a little bit, bringing you in to the stories of things that have been going on, in this conversation, but, like, there were times, since, like, 2019, 2020, that, like, we were like, "Okay, now is the time to go. Now is the time to do this project.
Yep.
Now is the moment," and then our prayer intercessors and our board and other people that we highly value their input and wisdom were like, "No. No,
Not
wait,
yet.
wait, wait. That now is not the moment." And so we kept being like, "Okay, okay," you know, kinda like learning to drive a manual transmission there, like "Oh,
Uh,
no, 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 no." And now it's like, "Okay, go." And we're like a month away from saying action, like literally a month away from saying it. That is just blowing
yes.
my mind. Honestly,
I'm
just like,
trying not to think about it actually.
"Are we
Too
ready?
many things to do.
Are we ready?" Yeah,
You're never ready. Yeah, I mean, you are, but you're never ready.
that's what I was gonna say
There's
again.
always 1,000 things that are left to do, and there's always, but you just set the date and you trust. I just so absolutely trust our amazing, team that we put together, on
Mhm.
all from,
Mhm.
getting the word out there about what we're doing to technical skill to the inspiration. Everybody that we have, brought into our team is amazing, like high quality, like as good as you'll find on The Chosen or
Mhm.
new Sound of Freedom movie or anything that you'll find. These are excellent award-winning people, and so
Yeah.
and they love Jesus as well. I think that there's this amazing collision of faith and craft, um, and I believe, I mean, we're shooting something entirely unlike those 2 things, because we really have a unique contemplative framework what we're working in, but the
Mhm.
caliber of quality that we're shooting is I would put it up right up against, the top films that are out there right now in terms of, the
Yeah.
market.
Yeah. Isn't it like I just think back, not to say like, there's been some good Christian films out there, over the years.
Especially in the
I
last
I
10
got
years.
a few that really impacted me even in, like, my childhood. Maybe I would feel differently rewatching them as an adult because that often happens. But, I feel like within Christian media, and Christian filmmaking, there has been a real, I don't wanna say lack, but a difficulty in telling these stories well, with high production quality, with authenticity and truth, and with believability, really,
Mhm.
like, you can throw all the money and, like, high talent and things you want at a project, but if it's not believable, it leaves you feeling a little dry, and you can throw, like, no money at a project, do, like, a really bare bones indie project, but it's believable, and it just grabs you, and I think something that has really encouraged me, is over the last, especially 5 years, is to see the turn where it feels like we're finally getting all of those ingredients together, where we're having high quality, productions that are being created that are telling real stories,
Yep,
and they're believable,
sure.
and
And, there
yeah.
I think anytime you saw this with, Christian music too, when it first
Mhm.
came out, like trying on a new jacket, like some of it's good, some of it's not. Some of it's
Some
like
of it some of it you
really
just
inspirational, but the craft was not that great.
yeah.
And then some of it was the craft was high. But anyway, there's a mixture of things, and of course, you've got all these different markets and competing voices for what Christian or faith-based film should be like. Everything should be evangelical. You should have a call at the end. There's all this kind of so it became, more preachy and, rather than story-driven, and I think that
Mhm.
we found in this last number of years some filmmakers who want to tell great stories, and
Yeah.
those great stories are rooted in the Trinity, rooted in, life transformation, and I think that that's been the shift. And also
Mhm.
technology is just our access to technology now is such that you can shoot a killer thing on a camera that costs a whole lot less than it used to.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think that the dynamics are changed, and I think that there's also a real hunger for this good storytelling. Like people
Yeah.
and I even think the pandemic has brought that out. People were so immersed in the Netflix, the Primes, the Disney, all the stuff, and we all
Yeah.
kinda go, "We know what's good. We know what looks good and what doesn't look good." And so it's really taken the bar for faith-based storytelling from here to here. Like, people don't
Mhm.
put up with stuff anymore.
Yeah.
They're not willing to watch it, and they're not necessarily willing to just watch the proselytizing stuff anymore either. So I think, um, you know, the excellence component combined with the faith component, and then in our case, really combined with the idea that we want to help people, wrestle through the large questions of life through this ancient text of scripture, through this ancient Davidic narrative. And, I think there's also like a massive and to shift the conversation slightly, there's a massive hunger for spiritual rhythms right now, for spiritual
Yes.
practice. And
Yes.
so, our hope with this, and it is just to take this ancient story and these spiritual rhythms and merge them with the world of today. And
Mhm.
so I think I'm really excited about that because it's probably I think you create the thing that you long for yourself. And I know that I need that. I need to figure out how to craft a spiritual rhythm in my life that sustains my soul, that enriches me, that nourishes me. And we want to do that. It's like, I'm a big fan, and I know you are too, of Lectio 365.
Yes.
And,
It's
it's
fantastic.
part of my rhythm, morning and evening. I have this contemplative moment that happens in the morning and moment that happens in the evening. And so we want to craft something um, in the world of that, although
Mhm. Yeah.
and so,
It
anyway.
it's like, the opportunity to take what we like, for those of you that don't know, like, so this film that we're working on called David Chronicles is based off of the stage production Life of David, which Jason it started the company. If you know anything about our company story, like this stage production started what was Jason on the Road, which turned into Jason Hildebrand Creative Arts, which is now Presence Creative Arts, and this larger team with this like large vision. And so it feels like I'm just getting the chills right now. It's so fitting that what we do started with Life of David and the stage production 25 years ago, and now here we are launching, like, this new phase of the company with a new name, Presence Creative Arts, and, a deeper identity, and we're starting it with David Chronicles, and, I just I just think it's more than amazing. Um, so Jason, why don't we just take a quick second and just maybe share about, like, why David? I think, when we think of the story of David, we often think about, like, our childhood Sunday morning, lessons and,
And a flannel
the
graph on the side of the yeah.
Mhm.
Since David, a gla or the Veggie Tales of the Big Pickle,
That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm sorry. The fact that you picked up on that I was mimicking VeggieTales
yeah,
with this.
you're welcome.
Thanks, Phil Fisher, for all
No,
of
no,
the
Bishop, we love you,
wonderful.
and we love Holy Post too,
We
by the
do
way.
love the Holy Post. Oh my god, so
Uh,
if you guys haven't checked that out, check out Holy Post
a podcast
podcast.
is
Oh,
yeah.
amazing.
Mhm.
But yeah, but I think, so often I think David lives in a couple camps in our minds, right? David is like this unobtainable man that we're all I don't know, like, I know for women, like, Proverbs 31 becomes like this beautiful millstone of misunderstanding
Yeah.
for women. I feel like maybe David kinda sits a little bit in that camp, right? You either have, like, the childhood David that just seems like, "What a great story," and, "We can do it," and that kinda thing, or, like, it moves into this, like, impossible figure of, like, "What? Like, how could I ever live up to being a man after God's own heart like David did?" And, but we firmly see David as a story that is impactful to our day-to-day walk now, and, something that is encouraging, so why don't you share a little bit too about, like, why David and not.
Encouraging and challenging. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that as I'm wrestling through the end of this script writing process right now, he's so messy. He is, because we have so much, a landscape on him in the story, we get to see the kind of the breadth of his messiness.
Mhm.
But here's a guy who really just wanted to spend time in the fields, and he just kept doing what God asked him to do, and he kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted. And I don't know if he wanted it or not. We haven't figured that out. But he wrestles with all these kinds of things, and I think the thing, messiness of family, and the messiness of listening, and the messiness of uh, of of hearing and doing what God's asked. The messiness of people around him not wanting to do the things that he knows to be true to do. And,
Mhm.
eh, but in the midst of it, I mean, one of the primary drivers that we're working on in this script is his capacity to hear the sound of God's voice. And what does it mean when what does it look like? What are the necessary ingredients so we can hear that sound? and what happens when the sound is gone? How do we get it back?
Mm,
And this idea of presence and what does presence mean for David? And
mhm.
so, yes, he's called a man after God's own heart, but boy, oh boy, does he not look like a man after God's own heart. You know, he blows things up kind of everywhere, and especially in the end of his life where everything goes sideways. He's a terrible dad. He's a bad father. He's a bad husband. And at the end of all the entire story, after he has given the reins to Solomon, he's actually um he's actually done all the drawings for the temple. He set Solomon up completely, and his final words is just him and a servant girl. That's it. His
Yeah.
entire family has deserted him. So what does that mean? You know, what does it mean for middle-aged Jason, middle-aged David to look back at the course of the messiness of my life, David's life, and reflect and say, what's helpful? What's not helpful? What wisdom can I impart? What silliness can I impart? You know, what is useful to our current cultural climate? And I really, we have talked about this a lot, but our team feels strongly that this story is very relevant to our current cultural climate,
Mhm.
and it has lots to mine, and that's our hope, is to create contemplative, reflective encounters with this story so that people can go away and then ask those questions in their own lives. And so I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's gonna be like, of course you hope that it'll be um, you know, incredible, and that's the plan. But it's really, we're trying to create something that I've not really seen before. I don't think we've seen in the way that we're trying to make it, and we're in Scotland. I mean, the
It's
northern
amazing.
Scotland. It's not going to get any more beautiful than that. In some ways, I feel like it's like and we're big fans of the Alpha Course, that amazing thing, that amazing program that came out of um, the UK. And so, in some ways, what we're trying to craft is a combination of Alpha, National Geographic, and I, I don't even know how to explain.
Like, how do you explain this to
365.
people? Like, I think that the part that keeps coming back is contemplative, right? And this going back to, like, the spiritual rhythms and creating space. I know someone asked me recently, like, "Why Scotland? Why, like, what kind of connection does Scotland have to the story of David?" And one of the things I said, when I was explain to them why Scotland was like, when you see the stage production, one of the brilliant things about Life of David is that it's in time and completely out of time. We don't and this won't be a surprise to many of you that know us and that if you've seen any of our stage productions, like, we tend not to do period pieces, but yet everything that we do is set within the period and in its
Exactly.
time. But because of the costuming choices that we do and the body movements and the text, like, it's totally in the time of when it happened, but yet experienced out of time because it's presented in such a way that it feels completely current. And so when I was saying, like, why Scotland, we said, we were looking for a place that had history, had depth to it, that would immediately place you somewhere that feels now, but also like the richness of time within the setting. And so,
Feels like that when you're
yeah,
there. It
yeah,
feels like ancient and new, and everywhere there's ruins. And
yeah,
so there's this, part of our uh, crafting is man versus nature. Um, and
mhm,
then this notion of buildings can crumble, you can crumble, we're finite. And
mhm,
even the thoughts that Solomon gives later on, like meaningless, meaningless, everything's meaningless.
yeah,
What's that about? Like, when you look at the building and you're like, somebody built that hundreds of years ago and now it just lies in ruin. What happens when a life is in ruin?
yeah,
And so the landscape is really a reflection of what's going on inside of David and the
mhm.
story. And I mean,
And that's not something that you can get here in Canada, unfortunately. Like,
you
our
can
history,
get it, you get a
our
different
our
way.
Yeah,
but not the
like
history that
but not the same kinda like, because as much as we have a long history, we all know and acknowledge that, like, the Canadian history goes well beyond what has been documented, but when it
sure.
comes to terms of, like, man trying to build something to last as,
Yeah,
like, a monument to himself or as, like, a signal to others around him, like, we don't have that kind of ancient history, and that was a huge component of what we were looking for the location to bring this story in time, but completely out of time, which may be confusing to some, but when you watch, any of our stage productions, when you watch our other films, like, they stand on their own 2 feet no matter when you're watching them because
yeah.
they're completely in time and out of time at the same moment, and it's like, I guess, a fine wine that just continue to ages so well, and
Let's
that's what we
let let's hope that's the case.
But, I think we've done that well. We've done that well successfully in
I hope
past
so.
projects, and so
Yeah,
I know that we will bring all that expertise and, we have that ability to create that, and that's what we're looking to do. We want something that lasts. We don't want something that just feels, so completely like, "Oh, that could only have been filmed in the '90s," because that was, like, the pop culture of the moment. Like, we want something that no matter when people sit down to watch it, they're like, "Oh, this hits me right here, and I get it." And, yeah. And Scotland, man, I am so, so excited. I've been to England before, I've never been to Scotland. Um, I've never
it's
been really far north,
yeah,
on
all
that
the way up,
aisle.
all the way up.
Yeah, and we're gonna be far north. People also, "So, like, how far are you going? To, like, the Highlands?" And I'm like, "Yes." And then
Yes.
keep going.
Um,
Like, when people think of the Highlands is more like, it's Highlands, but it's not like the highest you can go in the Highlands. We're going the
yeah, by the
highest.
organisms. We're
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
pretty awesome.
It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be amazing. Um, there are gonna be some challenges, though, on location. Like,
Yes.
I've been thinking about them and praying about them and going, "God, oh, the wind, the wind."
And the dangerous ruins we're working in and around, all those things. Some crew members who are a little bit more adventurous than other crew members, so we will work to be safe. We will be safe, but,
We will be safe.
we will be safe. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be I mean, we're actually, devising a plan so that if it pours rain the whole time, then that's okay. We'll figure that out, and if it's sunny the whole time, great, or a mixture. So
mhm.
we will be nimble in the how we're gonna be shooting these things.
That's right. Yeah, and that's I think when we think about the challenges of this shoot and being successful on location, I think the largest one is just how do we production-wise, stay really nimble? How do we as individuals stay really nimble? Because we often get it's a group of artists all working on the same project. And
Yep.
the amazing thing about our team is that everyone wants to serve the project and not their own personal agenda. Um, but we know when we're human and you add like late shoots and early morning sunrise shoots and
Black girl,
new food and
Black Yeah,
we're all crowded together in this one little space.
yeah.
It's sometimes hard to like let go of your own ideas and to day after day serve the project. And so I think staying nimble in our hearts and emotions, as well as nimble in our actual production, that's gonna be like the biggest challenge that we're gonna, I think, face. And so
Well, and I think we also
praying into that.
wanna live the contemplative experience while
Yeah.
we're shooting it, right?
Hmm.
We want to be listening for the voice of God. We want to be moving, with the Spirit as
Yeah.
in the production schedule, but I'm very aware that if God says go left and we're going right, that we shift gears and we go left.
Hmm.
And and so one of the great things is that we have some just beautiful praying, listening people along for the ride and that are coming. Some of our key supporters are coming along as well. And so that I'm super grateful for that because when you're in the midst of the production stuff, sometimes it's busy. And so we've got people around us that are listening and you know,
Yeah.
and want us to succeed in that way, and that we've actually We haven't had it in the same way that, before, in the same way that we have it now. We're being very intentional about bringing those people along with us, and that's
Mhm.
that's that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, we've learned. We've learned a lot from our other shoots.
Absolutely, but
Like,
yes.
one is, like, don't plan to film everything in a day.
Mhm.
Check.
Well, yeah, it's budget too, right? So
It's always budget. It's
you're
always
always
budget.
like, "We
No,
have 1 day. We need 6." And, this time it's it's still ambitious. We're
it's still
still
very ambitious.
not as
Let's
ambitious
be clear. It's
because we
still a
only
little
have
crazy.
our budget is only so much,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but at the same time, it's gonna be great because it's more than we have ever had the capacity for, and so God has been so gracious
Mhm.
with us, and so um, we are again jumping off the cliff in a way that we have not yet before, so that's really exciting.
Yeah, and I'm just, talking about jumping off the cliffs. There have been so many cliffs with this project, between, like, all of a sudden being able to go and location scout last fall, like, that was a huge jumping off the cliff of, like, again, it was like, should we oh, it feels like the money's there, and then all of a sudden the money just landed and everyone was like, "Go!" And so it was like, "Alright, tickets booked, we're going next week," kinda thing. Maybe it wasn't quite next week, but it felt like that. And then all along, the planning of this shoot has been just continual, like, is this the right moment? It seems like we have enough for right now, and God's like, "Jump." Everyone's like, "Jump," and so we've jumped, and God's been incredibly faithful,
Mm,
through all of that. And now we reach this moment, where we've been working with our funders, our fundraising team, and the presence team, and we've been talking about, like, how do we invite people into this project? How do we
yeah,
have people feel like um, this is also their thing? And so we've talked about, like, doing this interview, letting people into our hearts and giving them behind the scenes moments. If you follow us on social media, especially Facebook and Instagram, we're doing like almost daily updates about something that's going on production wise, sharing little snippets of moments, of things that are happening, because we want you to be as excited as we are and we want to invite questions and feedback and just get people really into this journey with us so we're not on our own doing it. We want it to be very much with you. And one of the ways that we also talked about how can we invite people in is through Kickstarter. We did a Kickstarter. We're doing a Kickstarter.
we're in the
If
middle of a
Melissa and I,
Kickstarter.
we've never, ever, ever have invited people in this way before. And like I can't stress that enough that we've never done something like this before.
Yeah,
Um,
we've always been, and we still are. We have the capacity to receive donations and give patrons a tax receipt, and so we've always gone along that.
mhm.
But I know in my for myself, I just love, uh, you know, finding a project that's on my heart and supporting it and getting some of the cool little kickbacks
Perks.
for the
Yeah.
Kickstarter, the perks.
Yeah.
And so, oh, how could we craft something fun for people to get on board with?
Mhm.
Uh, would a provide them little perks that you could do and big perks. Like if you want to give us, what is it, 10 grand, then you can come and hang out with us in Scotland for a couple of days, I think.
Yep. But that
Uh,
one closes soon because we
oh,
have to arrange
oh,
travel.
so all you
But
people with $10,000 donation, please,
yeah,
jump on board now.
yeah, that's right. Before it's too late. Yeah, and so that is what we're doing. We're inviting people in, and I think the tiers that get me the most excited, I think from a backer perspective, the tier that would get me one of the tiers that get me really excited is actually the $50 tier because I get to then, like, watch, like, a private screening of the film, with other people that are at the $50 backer, level, as well as get um a digital copy of the whole project when it's completed. That's always exciting to me because I love, like, being, like, amongst the first to own something. But the other one that really gets me excited is actually what we were calling, the David Chronicles producer experience, which is before the film is in its final iteration, we're gonna do a screening, and we're gonna invite those that are at this $100 tier and a few other people that have spoken into the project along its way to gather together, and we're gonna do a virtual screening of it, and then we're gonna talk as producers what this film project has been like. We'll have a lot to say, I'm
Yeah.
sure, when we get to that point.
No.
Um, And we're gonna invite you to feedback. We're gonna invite you to join the conversation, to ask us questions, to share what moments really worked or what moments didn't work so well. And we're gonna be able to take that information as well and help shape the project into what it will be in its final publicly released form. And so I think that tier really gets me excited. The other one is I think it's the $500 tier that where you get like a handcrafted gift from Scotland, plus the other tiers before it with the producer experience. But I've been working on with a local artisan in Scotland, and I'm really excited. I'm actually gonna get the opportunity. Jason doesn't even know this yet, so this is like him finding out right now. I actually get the opportunity to meet the artisan. I'm actually gonna go, when we land in Scotland, directly to them from the airport, and they're gonna, like, hand off a bunch of these souvenirs to me directly into my hot little hands, and I'm gonna get to
Wow.
meet them and say thank you and peruse
Mm.
all their other wonderful things that they make, so I'm really excited about that.
Very, very cool. Very cool.
So, yeah, we'll put some information either on the screen here or in the description if you wanna join us on Kickstarter. Please, please do. We would love to have you back this project and join us in one of those tiers. There's other tiers as well. And there's also actually a fun add-on for I think it's 30 bucks Canadian. If you do a little add-on, Jason will give you a greeting video directly from Scotland on set. So not just like a public, you know, here's the information, but like a private one, just to you. So I think that's kind of gonna be a fun little personalized souvenir thing as well. Um, what are some of the other tiers? I'm trying to think now. One of them, I think it's $1,000 tier, is you get some more private updates. It will go to the whole group, but it's more of, like, in-depth behind the scenes of what's been going on, while in Scotland as well. So, more than just what we publicly are putting out to our social media pages and our website, it will be things that will be more directed to this group. So I'm also very excited, to bring people in a more, in-depth, intimate way on the journey while it's actually happening live. So it'll almost feel like you're there, even though you're not.
Well, you could $1,000, just saying.
Yeah, you could come. You could come. You could join us. Oh, Jason, this has been amazing. We'll be doing probably another couple sit downs like this
Yeah.
along the way and releasing them on here on our YouTube channel, as well as snippets will go up onto our other social media platforms. But it's always so much fun to kind of peel back and share a little bit of what's going on. So, anything else, Jason, you want to share before we sign off on this one?
No, I mean, we appreciate your prayers. We appreciate your partnership. I think one of the things that our team has been very thoughtful about over the last couple of years, but leading into this project is this that we're really interested in doing with you. Like we
Mhm.
create these things. So we're always looking for people who have a similar heart towards cultural transformation,
Yep.
and to feeding people's souls
Yep.
in in a cultural climate that is really full of distraction and entertainment. And I love entertainment, but entertainment towards distraction as opposed to entertainment that feeds the soul. And
Mhm.
and so, if you're a person that who's if you're a person whose heart is towards cultural change like this, then we would love to partner with you. And your support along with our vision, I really believe is going to create something incredible.
Yep.
And so that's really kind of the bedrock of what we're doing with Presence in the next couple of years is growing those people that want to walk with us on this journey. Um, because I think the journey, the calling is big, and lots of different people are doing it. We're seeing it, like The Chosen, like
Yep.
Sound of Freedom, like so many other stuff, and other
Mhm.
things that are
I can
that are
only
coming
imagine.
out.
It's another really good one.
Some
But
great stuff
yeah.
happening, like podcasts like Holy Post, and like we've
Mhm.
mentioned, Lectio, and there's a bunch of stuff like that that's happening, and so we feel like we're part of that world,
Yeah.
and so it resonates in your heart. If what we're doing resonates in your heart, then please join us,
Mhm.
because you need us. We need each other. So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
what I have to say.
Well, thank you everyone for sitting through, joining us on this little chat interview as we talk about David Chronicles, and we look forward to next time. Maybe well, not maybe, I know we'll be doing at least 1 or 2 of these while we're on location in Scotland, um, which will be crazy fun. But, yeah, there's gonna be so much more coming, so much more coming.
While we're eating the haggis, will be very powerful.
All right, till next time, everyone. Bye.
Bye.